Hi everyone, welcome to week 12 of data journalism. We're flying right along here. We're going to cover Google MyMaps this week, Google's basic mapping tool. I need you to do a few things before we get rolling here in this video. If you haven't done so already, go to the syllabus, week 12 schedule, and go to part 1, which is watch this video. This is a little video from Google that goes through the basics of how to use MyMaps. The second thing I need you to do is to go to Google My Maps right here, mymaps.google.com, and log in so you can have a log into this interface. And then yours will look different, obviously, because you won't have any maps in it. And then also go to the Week 12 folder. In the Week 12 folder, we have 3 files there: My Maps Bike Cities, My Maps Chicago Boundaries, which is a shapefile, a KML file, keyhole markup language file. I talked about those when we were talking about digging for data back in week 3. And then also the Potholes Patched, which is a spreadsheet of potholes around the city from 2014. So download those 3 files and then come back and join me on here on this video. All right, welcome back everybody. We just went through and had you download those 3 videos, log into Google My Maps, and by now you should have watched a short video on how to use Google My Maps. We're going to get to that in just a minute. We're actually going to use that same data set with the bike cities, only we're going to do some different things with it and show you some other powers that Google My Maps has. Which is pretty cool. You can create a map using nothing more than a spreadsheet. It'll recognize city names, longitude, latitude, street addresses, building names, and so on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes a good map, first of all, and how to build something out in Google My Maps, and then we'll dig into the hands-on work. What makes a good interactive map? It's different than a map you might look at in a book or a paper map that you may hold in your hands. You have to reward the reader for clicking on something in an interactive map. So you need an accurate location, so you need to have everything spelled right in your spreadsheet. Otherwise, the location won't show up. You need to have multiple data about that pinpoint. It might be statistics, a short paragraph, a link to more info. You might have multimedia with it, photo, video, or link to audio. I'm going to show you how to add multimedia to your map in just a minute. But you always want to think in terms of rewarding that reader. If that reader clicks on that pinpoint, they need to find more than just one statistic, like you would find maybe looking at a paper map, a newspaper map where it shows how many people voted in that last election per state. Here you need to give them something more on an interactive map. So always be thinking in terms of packaging the content per pinpoint or per location. Okay. Google My Maps, as I said before, is Google's basic mapping tool. It'll handle a spreadsheet of 1,000 rows or less. It'll handle an Excel or a CSV, comma separated values file. CSV files are really good because if you have a long street address in one column, you can separate it by commas. 946 West Sheridan Road, comma, Chicago, comma, Illinois, comma, 60613. If it's separated by commas in that cell, most mapping software is going to be able to read it pretty well. Google My Maps is commonly used as a, quote, day-turn map in newsrooms. Good software for smaller, kind of quick-turn, day-turn projects. Any spreadsheet with 1,000 rows or less, is going to be a pretty quick map build. You could do layering in here. We're actually going to do that in a little bit here. You can layer in what we call shape files. This may be a shape of all the U.S. states, or all of the countries in the world, or a shape file of all the neighborhoods in Chicago, or all the counties in Indiana or Illinois. Those are typically what are called KML files, keyhole markup language files. Okay, KMZ is a similar file format. And you can layer pinpoints over the shape file. So if I was going to map homicides in Chicago by police precinct, or by aldermanic ward, or by neighborhood, or by zip code. This was common during the early days of the pandemic, and when we started getting vaccinations. How many vaccinations per zip code. You can layer those pinpoints then in over the top of that shapefile, and you can see how many occur in that area. Okay. We're going to do it actually with potholes in Chicago and layer it over a shapefile. We're going to do neighborhoods. Shapefiles are typically KML or KMZ files. This is a question I usually ask when we're meeting in person. Be careful with maps. Maps can lie to you. This is a graphic that Trump impeached or shared as he was going through the impeachment process. In this map, he said, try to impeach this. Okay, this is a county by county map. It is accurate. It's how people voted in the 2016 election. But the thing you need to remember is land doesn't vote. People vote. And so the blue areas are the areas where people live. More people live in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York than in some of these rural areas like Nebraska and Wyoming and North and South Dakota. So while he won those counties, they're very sparsely populated. If you remember right, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but she lost the election with the Electoral College. Okay, so again, maps can lie to you. Keep that in mind. This kind of misrepresents the popular vote in the 2016 election. Even though he did win the election, she had more individual votes. When you're looking at maps too, some things to question. And also, these are things to think about as you're building a map so it doesn't mislead people. I've got a little link here too. You can open this presentation up if you like and read more about misleading maps. Always think about the form, the design. We've talked about this before, the form. Does a form limit the function, which is the data itself? Is it representing the data accurately and in a clear, concise way that the reader will understand? Number one, have you read the headline, description, legend, and source in any other labels? All of your maps should have a headline and a description on it. Most will have a legend on it as well. If not, we'll count off for it. Who made the map and why? Okay, you can always reverse image search a static map. The Google Maps you can't, but you always question, who made it. That's why you should always have your credit on there at the end of the description. It gives it credibility. If the map shows data, what kind of data is it representing? Can you download it and look at it? Is anything distorted or the wrong size? Is it misrepresenting something? How's it designed? Is it using symbols or areas? And is there any problem with how that's communicating the story? This is the prime example of that. Okay, so as you're looking at maps, look at them, in a very critical way. Use your critical thinking skills as you look at the map and challenge it. But as you're building a map, keep these questions in mind. These are how people will look at your map. Understand your audience. They're going to question the value and trustworthiness and the accuracy of your map. So make sure you have that headline, description, your credit on there, and be clear about why you're building that map and why. A couple of quick examples of maps. These are interactive maps. This is some flooding and fires that occurred in Argentina, and they painted this little zone around here. And you can do this pretty easily. I'll show you how to draw on the maps. And then they created these little pinpoints for shelters and roads you could or could not pass through. But as you clicked on these different pinpoints, it gave you a short description, a link to more information, it gave you photos. So, it gave you more than just a statistic or just the name of the area. It gave you information about it and gave you some choices to click through and look at things. This one is a hand-drawn map by the CBC. It's on some flooding in Washington State. And that flooding occurred, and oftentimes when you're in a mountain area like this, flooding occurs and you'll get mudslides. So based off of information that they had from local authorities, they were able to draw where the mudslides and the flooding occurred. And Arlington-Darrington Road, not too many people were able to drive down because it was either covered in mud or water. Maps can save lives, okay? It's very, very important that you're accurate with them, especially when it comes to public safety maps, and this is a prime example. You want to be very, very careful with them. In this mudslide, a lot of people were killed here. Look at all the views this got too. People wanted to know about this flooding and mudslide. Not everything is serious with maps. This is one that of all the pubs in London that a bunch of grad students over there map. This is actually some bad data viz just because it's so dense, but you did have filters on it that you could filter it out. But apparently you can't walk through the country, Great Britain or Scotland, or any of these without walking through a pub. But yeah, I just wanted to show that just so you can have a little fun with it too. This is an example of one that Huffington Post did during the World Cup back in 2014. This is all the pubs in Chicago that were associated with different countries. So you didn't have the Irish guy walk into the Italy bar and cause all kinds of trouble watching the, so they had the little map here with the flag of the country to represent. You could click on that flag and it would give you information about that bar, what game was showing and when, and so on and so on. You can see the old share buttons over here. This is a kind of an old map, but it's a very good, useful map. It's a pretty good thing to have. So we're going to play with My Maps right now. We're going to build a couple of maps in here. We're going to do the first one is going to be our bikes map, which the video showed us how to do already. But I'm going to show you a few features with it that the other video didn't show you. So click on Create a New Map here in the upper left-hand corner. And notice it has Untitled Layer in here. You always want to title your layers, and the video didn't tell you this, especially if other people are going to be working on the map. So rename the layer, and I'm going to name it Cities. I usually do it in all caps just so it'll pop a bit here. Then import your spreadsheet. Okay, I can go over here and click on it, or I can drag and drop into, but I'm going to go ahead and find my bike cities. There it is. And it'll upload, relatively quickly. It's only 20 rows as opposed to 1,000. It'd handle up to 1,000. Choose the columns to position your place marks. Location would be a good one. Okay. And then a label for it. I could do location, but I'll just do city. Hit finish. It'll take a second to load, and it'll always center the map over the highest concentration pinpoints, in this case, Europe. So I can zoom in a little bit more. And let me click on Dublin, a fine Irish town. There has all the information in my spreadsheet. If you notice the word program has the British spelling, it drives me crazy. You can hit the edit button and clean that out. It won't change it in the spreadsheet, but it will on the map. And if I wanted to go in and maybe change the colors of my pinpoints, I can click on the bucket here and change the color. I can also do that over here under all items. Base map is important. Notice in the video they chose the terrain map. The reason they chose that, and the background map is a big decision to make. If you're doing a layering, shapefile of counties or countries in this case through Europe, you'd want to use the light political map, so your shapefiles would pop out here of each country. But they chose a terrain map, mainly because cyclists are concerned about whether they're climbing a hill or going downhill or going on flat terrain. So, think of your audience as you're choosing these base maps. It's a very important decision. Also, over here under Style, you have a little camera. It's where you're allowed to add images or video. So I can click there and I can search YouTube or Google Images. Cycling in Dublin, Ireland. Got to be a little careful about copyright here. I'm going to pull this one out of, I got to find the right one here. I believe this was it. No. Yeah, it was this one. That comes from a source that is rights free. This one photo actually comes from the Chamber of Commerce, so you can take and use it. You have to do a little searching in Google Images to find the right image. You can see a little bit about it down here. Some of these, like the Guardian and things like that, these are copyright images, so you can't use them. But this one up here is useful. So now I've got a photo embedded into my little pinpoint. I can hit the plus sign over here, And I can also add a video. So if I have the URL, I can just paste it in there, but I'll search for one. Don't have to worry about copyright with YouTube videos, because the minute you hit publish on YouTube video, it is public. So anybody can use it. It's in your terms of service. And I can add another one if I wanted to. Cycling in Dublin, Ireland. And so I've got a couple of videos and a photo. Got a little slideshow. If you want people to spend time on your website, this is a good way to do it. Give them a slideshow of videos on each of these pinpoints. Next thing you know, instead of spending 10 minutes here, they've spent 40 minutes here. It's a smart way to do it. Zoom in now on France. And on your phone, you've used Google Maps to get from point A to point B. This has that software built into it that allows you to travel from point A to point B and draw driving, cycling, or walking directions. To add that in here, it's very easy. You go up here to draw a line, and you can go down here to biking route. And let's say I want to draw a biking route from Paris down to Bordeaux. Nice ride through wine country. So I can click here. I could zoom into a street corner if I wanted to and be that precise, but I'm just going to kind of click by each of the cities. And then you double click down here. It's got point A to point B. It gives you turn-by-turn directions on what it thinks, what Google Maps thinks is the fastest route between the two cities. Notice it added a new layer here. Okay. You could add another layer up here. Let's say we had some flooding in France and we wanted to make sure our cyclists didn't ride through a big flood zone. I could hit add layer here in the upper left. Okay. Gives it an untitled layer. I'll rename it flood zone. And now I can go up to this drawing tool, add a line or shape, and I can click around on here. You just have to kind of click these little keyframes. Let's say, France's FEMA had told me, oh yeah, we've had bad flooding up here, just south of Reims. And flood zone. You might have seen, wildfire maps. I could put some data in here too about it, how deep the water is or something like that. I can change the color here. You might have seen these, in some of the wildfire maps out in California. It was red, and then you can always stretch it out if the flood gets bigger, or bring it in if it gets smaller. But you've got a flood zone drawn on here. And I am going to delete this layer. If you need to delete a layer, you can, because I'm going to publish this, and I don't want people to think there's a flood zone in this area of France, but that's how you would add one. I can also add other locations, and this might be how you want to do your homework map rather than setting up the spreadsheet the way we have the bike cities. You can set it up that way or put street addresses in. You can also just set it up this way and search in here. So let's say we wanted to add a 21st city, and I wanted to add Portland, Oregon. I can just search it. It automatically drops the pin in, click add to map, and then I can go in, click the pencil, make it 21st, and then blah, 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 blah for my notes. And now I've got another pinpoint, which means I've got to zoom back out. So one of the drawbacks is when you add a new pinpoint, it zooms right into it. So you have to zoom back out then to get to your broader map. Okay. So these are some of the features that, again, the video didn't do a real good job of explaining. That's why I wanted to show you this. Always title your map. This is a big part of your grade. Always make sure this area is filled out. So 21 great cycling cities. And then you add a couple sentences here about it. Always want to put your credit in there. Get spell my name today. That would be nice. Google developers built this fun list of cities to go cycling in. I would probably put my source in here if I got the map from the city, you know, the data from the city of Chicago data portal or wherever, and then my credit. So headline, description, source, and then credit. Hit save. This is big because if you don't have this up here, it's a letter grade drop. Okay, right there. It goes from an A to a B. I don't care how good the map is. If you don't provide context for the reader, you're done. Okay, so next step is to share it. So click the share button here and turn these two on so anybody can see the map. So it's searchable and anyone with the link can view. You can copy this link, close it. And now that it's public, you can go over into Medium and hit the plus sign, hit the embed, paste your link, hit return, be patient, and your map should pop up in a second or two. There it is. And your description will show up here once I hit publish. Your map won't be active, just like your other graphics. They aren't active until you actually publish it. So you can click around on there in the content management system for Medium and nothing will show. But now that it's live on the web, you click on your pinpoints, you'll see all of the stuff pop up. And as I zoom in, take you to Ireland here. There it gives us Dublin and all of our choices of videos and photos. We have a little slideshow there. It plays through quite nicely. So there you go. That's the basics of building a map in Google My Maps. Okay. One more thing we're going to do in My Maps. And this is kind of the great thing about My Maps. Once you complete the map, it auto saves for you, so you don't have to go back and keep saving it or worry about it. The key thing is hitting that share button. Okay, it stores it right in here, so you can go and reopen it at any time. Now we're going to create a new map, and we're going to build a layered map. So this first layer we're going to do is going to be potholes. Hit save. We're going to import our potholes spreadsheet. So right here, potholes patched. It's going to ask us where to position our place marks. It's going to give us a lot of stuff here. Oh man, it looks confusing. You could do it by address, but really latitude and longitude are the most accurate. That gets you right down to the exact point that little map or that little pothole was fixed. The city keeps track of all this stuff. Choose a column to title your place marks. I'm going to do street address. Hit finish. It'll take a second here to load, because there's a few dozen potholes, and there's a bunch of pothole repairs from 2014 around the city of Chicago. Okay, now we're going to add a new layer. So click add layer here in the upper left. We're going to label this layer neighborhoods. And it's tricky with the city of Chicago. They actually call their neighborhoods shapefile community areas. You might see a neighborhoods one in there, but that's like the unofficial neighborhoods like Lake, Wrigleyville and things like that. Boys Town, things like that, which is now North Halstead. But the official names of the neighborhoods, Lakeview, Lincoln Park, Pilsen, Chinatown, Little Italy, and so on, are the in the community areas. So to add that, hit import. Click on the little blue button here and go select your Chicago boundaries, community areas. It's a KML shapefile. And it will import it. It'll take a second because it's a pretty big file. Ugh, Pepto-Bismol pink. Thank you, City of Chicago. Now there's a little trick here you can do with this to get rid of the Pepto-Bismol pink. Some of their newer ones, they're actually gray, so they look much better. You can go around and click on each neighborhood and change the paint bucket for each one, you know, and give it some earthier colors. You know, you can do that. It is time consuming, but it's well worth it because it looks a hell of a lot better than what's there. Or there's a little hack over here that you can play around with under individual styles under neighborhoods. I can select individual styles and I'll select by community. And I'll do it down here as well. And it'll actually turn the label on each neighborhood too, which is helpful. I can turn it off too with setting the labels. You know, and you can always adjust your color panels and things like that through here. But you know, now it's a much smoother you know, color panel through here. It's not that Pepto-Bismol pink that's just heinous, terrible, terrible. So we've got a nice little map here of pothole repairs from 2014. I need a newer pothole repairs 7-year-old data set. 2014 pothole repairs in Chicago. I would write a few sentences of background about it. Source is data.cityofchicago.org. Map is by Mike Riley. And now you have a layered map. Remember to hit the share button. You always have to click the top one first, then the second one. Now you have your link. Close it. Be patient when you hit return, and your map should show up. Again, we don't want that raw link code. And just remember, when you hit the plus sign, this is true for embedding everything. Always go over here to this 1 second from the right. Okay, then you publish, put in your tags, good to go. All right, little reminder with the City of Chicago data portal. We haven't visited this since we were doing our exercise on digging for data. There are shapefiles all over here. In transportation, you can find the bus lines, all the train lines, locations of all the divvy bike stations, all kinds of shapefiles in here. You can also find a lot of them in a different area called geographic boundaries, facility and geographic boundaries over here. This is where I got the neighborhoods map. There's census tracts in here, community areas, which is the neighborhoods, zip codes, wards, aldermanic wards. As you see, the boundaries for the neighborhoods are in here, the unofficial neighborhoods. Police districts are in here, central business districts, census blocks. These are the little, the census, as we talked about earlier, is broken down into tracts and blocks and the little sub blocks too. Ward precincts, offices, all kinds of different boundaries in here. You can dig through all these pages and see. So all these shapefiles are up here for you to use. Okay, your assignment. Hit pause right now and take a second to read through your assignment, which is due Monday, April 4th at noon. All right, welcome back. By now you've read through this. You're going to use Google MyMaps to pull a couple of pieces of data from the City of Chicago data portal, a data set of locations and a shapefile. The locations can be anything. I mean, you can go in here, there's red light cameras in here. There's police vaccination locations, police stations, fire stations, all kinds of different things you can find in here. And you're going to create a map, a layered map. So you're going to do number of COVID vaccination centers by Chicago neighborhood or by zip code. And then in your story, you're going to write a little bit about which had the most, which neighborhoods had the most, or zip codes had the most, which had the fewest, and so on and so on. So again, shapefiles and I give you some ideas here of things too. Homicides, towed vehicles is always a good one. And you're going to create that map, write about 300 words worth of analysis, link off to some background stories, publish it in Medium, and tweet it to the UIC digital hashtags. I've got some examples down here, a few tips down here, as well as your rubric. If you need help, let me know. Don't wait till the last minute on this one. Don't try to remember too with the City of Chicago data portal. Typically with the crime database, don't try to download the 2001 to present crime database. Search for the individual homicides or petty thefts or burglaries. You could do a fun one, interesting one. I think it would be not so much fun, but burglaries and how close they are to certain train lines. So you could put the sheet file of the CTA train lines in there, and then layer in all the burglaries from the last year in there. Be an interesting little presentation. So a little challenging this exercise is, but I think you're gonna get a lot out of it. So again, reach out to me if you have any questions. It's due Monday, April 4th at high noon. Your deadlines are right on here on the syllabus. Just a little bit of light reading, but the MyMaps assignment is really your big assignment for the week. So have at it, and do reach out if you have any questions. Have a good one.